the hardest thing for me to pass was survival at sea because I was so skinny that when they threw us in the ocean for 14 hours with holes in our dry suits, I started to become hypothermic. And the thing I almost struggled to do was pull myself back into the life raft because I
Yeah.
was shaking so much. So it took a lot of energy to get me back in.
Yeah.
Managed to do it, but when I came back to base 2.5 years after I left all the initial training, the recruits were giving the drill instructors red cards. So if the instructor did something that was too offensive or too harsh or too this, they could give them a red card, and they could say, "Okay, no, you've crossed the line now." And if an instructor got 3 red cards, then the instructor was under review. And I thought to myself, "Hang on a sec. So you're at war, and you're going to show your enemy a red card because what they did was a bit too rough, and they're going to stop. They're definitely going to stop and go, you know what, you're right. Let me just take a timeout, and I'll give you a break."
Yeah. I
And
know.
the
No.
fact the fact that this even got approved somewhere, like, how did people ever approve this for a military? It just
Exactly.
blew my mind.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the brink from downtown Prince George, Canada, British Columbia. And for all those people watching us from around the world, you say, okay, we know where Canada is. British Columbia on the west coast, right? Right. And you got the big city there, Vancouver, right? Well, we are 500 miles north of Vancouver, or for our European friends, 800 kilometers. And so, a beautiful area, lots of trees. Within 50 miles of Prince George, we have at least 100 lakes, and we got lots of friends in nature: black bears, grizzly bears, caribou, deer, foxes, and wolves. You name it, we got it all here. We call it paradise. Now, today we got a very, very special guest. His name is Clay Moffat. His biography is an ex-Navy weapons tech turned behavioral coach and an author of The Trust Trap. He's going to talk about that a bit. He has spent 15 years helping high performance break toxic patterns, stop outsourcing their sanity, and take radical responsibility for their lives. Clay, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, John. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for hosting me.
So tell us about your background. Where are you from originally? Where were you born, kind of, and what was your
Sure.
background, your education? How did you end up into the Navy, and then obviously from there on in went into your career that you have now, and then became an author as well?
Perfect. So much like yourself, I'm not a migrant, but my parents were migrants, so I'm a first generation Australian, right? So I grew up with very different values to most Australians. Not too different, but still different. My parents migrated from South Africa before I was born, and it kind of kicked off from there. And whatever happened during my childhood, which was extremely normal, so we're clear. Like, never abused, never raped, never bashed, nothing. Like, everything was run of the mill, standard. But somewhere along the way, something happened, and I decided the world hated me, or I hated the world, or something, and I went off the rails to the point where, at the age of 13, I was driven to hospital by my friend's mum. We were away on an Easter weekend for a camping trip, and I had drunk 2 liters of vodka as something to do at a party. Yeah. Ended up, fortunately, they said if I'd had another 2 shots worth, I would have needed a blood transfusion. They didn't have my type of blood, so I would have died.
Yeah.
And that was just like the start, you know. School, I didn't really fit in. I didn't enjoy. I did manage to graduated with almost straight A's, but still hated it. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. My dad's ex-military, he's special forces. He suggested joining the military. Didn't want to join the army. Didn't really want to join the Air Force. The Navy gets to travel in a boat, so I figured I get free travel. Might as well join the Navy. So I signed up, went into the military, and
How old were you then?
17, straight from
Yeah.
school.
Okay.
So my first Christmas leave, so I turned 18, and I flew back. And the day that I landed back in Perth, I tried breaking up a bar fight,
Oof.
got thrown through a balcony railing, and fell 12 feet headfirst on a concrete,
Oh
cracked my
my
skull,
God.
fractured it, and was in a coma and had to learn to walk and talk again before I went back because I didn't want the military to find out. I didn't want to get kicked out.
Oh.
The, the irony is that had the military found out, I would have got medically discharged with a full pension the rest of
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah.
And but I didn't want that, right? Like I was like,
No.
I mean, I was enjoying it at the time. But this gets to a point, I promise. So worked through the military, ended up leaving the military, went and started working in oil and gas as a subsea engineer and a submersible engineer. That was enjoyable. I had way more time off, got paid way more money.
How old were you
So
then at that point, Clay?
we're talking around about 23,
Yeah.
24, 25. So
Okay.
late 20s, mid to late 20s,
Yeah.
early 30s.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so I did that for around about 6, 7 years and realized it wasn't for me. About that time, OPEC had the oil crisis with the US. They went to war, and the oil price
Yeah.
had just tanked. So I was made redundant because they're not going to pay me when they can't drill for oil anyway. So I was without a job, and I had been tracking something for the majority of my life, which I thought was happening to me, which was I kept on getting passed over for promotion in the Navy. I kept on getting screwed over by people close to me in the Navy, and my bosses kept on throwing me under the bridge. When I was in oil and gas, similar things were happening, and
Why?
it was getting close. Well, because as a victim, that's why. No one was screwing me over. I was just a complete victim, and I didn't know it. And that was the hardest thing to admit, that not the problem was me, but that I was being a victim. That was a really, really massive dent to the ego. Like, I'm this confident young guy. No, no, you're not confident at all. You're just, what do you say, masquerading, like you're pretending. And so that journey eventually transformed, and that led me into the coaching that I'm doing today. But it didn't originally. It actually led me into studying language so I could learn how to manipulate people to get them to do what they said they were going to do. It had nothing to do with coaching. It had nothing to do with helping people. A lot of people get into this line of work because they've been abused or because they want to help people. I didn't want to help anyone but myself. I was like, I got to figure this out because I'm not getting ahead, so I'm going to figure it out. And 2 years of going and studying and getting almost no results led me to the realization that, if you're a piece of trash, it doesn't matter how much language you know, you're still a piece of trash and no one's going to want to help you. So that's kind of the thing that kicked it off. Furthermore to that, in 2010, again, my dad was under the knife. He had a cancer surgery. And my way of dealing with things is pretty obvious up until this point, was to go and get drunk. Well, you can't be drunk in public in certain places in the US, and I happened to be absolutely intoxicated in the wrong part of town and ended up arrested and in jail because I'd also broken some things in my drunken stupor, and not aggressively, not maliciously, but just being a drunk, clumsy moron. And so I ended up in jail with the potential for uh, federal prison because
Ooh.
what I had got arrested for, they said was intentional. Now the cops were like, we can't charge him with that. That's not right. Like he's not intentionally doing anything. Like so, yeah, it was a wake up call, but not the drinking. To be fair, like that wasn't the thing that woke me up. The thing that woke me up was when my dad didn't want to speak to me anymore.
Ooh.
He's like, yeah, he basically disowned me, which I can appreciate. I had screwed the pooch so many times. It's just like how many times can you just keep doing the same thing over and over and expect someone? So that was kind of the thing that turned it around or ignited the spark for me to figure out how to like start communicating with people. And then that started a 15-year journey into okay, maybe you should start changing.
So did you have siblings?
An older brother. Yep.
Yeah. And so the what I find interesting is that you got into the Navy when you were 17. I can relate
Hmm.
that to that. I got into the Dutch Air Force when I was 18, got medical checking and all the other kind of things. Was drafted into the Air Force when I was 18 for a little longer than 2 years. And it was Special Forces security. And so it was interesting to say the least. Tough
Oh yeah.
for first 4 or 5 months. Obviously, I was not at 18 years. Was still very very young, but I can always kind of look back at it as an experience that would serve me well in the future. I still do some of the things that I learned then. Uh,
Yep.
One of the things that I usually say is at 80, nearly 85 years old, uh, I still get up in the mornings at 5:30. I always make my bed, and I always think I'm late.
Yep.
And then I still pick up on the parade grounds. If I see something laying there, then I have the tendency of picking it up,
Yep.
because that's what we did. So it was a good
Yes.
experience. Unfortunately, they discontinued that. I think for a lot of kids in the early ages, that would have served them well. What I find now is that young people that age, they usually kind of get to the point either they think they know it all, or they don't have ambitions or anything like that, and that kind of changes when you go to the initial training and they put you in a room with 39 other guys that think they know it all too, and so that's kind of a quite the experience.
In Australia, it's voluntary. There's no conscription. There's no draft.
Right.
Yeah. The it's an interesting thing that you say that. I definitely thought I was all that in a bag of crisps, 100%, and so did everyone else that joined. But what we started noticing was I had to go back to. We have like one base where we train in Australia in the Navy. That's like the training base.
Yeah.
And I had to go back there multiple times for other trainings and courses after I'd been in for a while. Now, when I went through basic training, it was a cakewalk. It was a joke. It was so simple. My physical fitness was already high because I played a lot of sports. The aptitude tests were a joke. Like it was not a hard thing. The hardest thing for me to pass was survival at sea because I was so skinny that when they threw us in the ocean for 14 hours with holes in our dry suits, I started to become hypothermic. And the thing I almost struggled to do was pull myself back into the life raft because I
Yeah.
was shaking so much. So it took a lot of energy to get me back in.
Yeah.
Managed to do it, but when I came back to base 2.5 years after I left all the initial training, the recruits were giving the drill instructors red cards. So if the instructor did something that was too offensive or too harsh or too this, they could give them a red card, and they could say, "Okay, no, you crossed the line now." And if an instructor got 3 red cards, then the instructor was under review. And thought to myself, hang on a sec. So you're at war and you're going to show your enemy a red card because what they did was a bit too rough, and they're going to stop. They're definitely going to stop and go, you know what? You're right. Let me just take a timeout and I'll give you a break.
Yeah,
And
no,
the
no.
fact the fact that this even got approved somewhere, like, how did people ever approve this for a military? It just
Exactly.
blew my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
But
interesting times.
yeah, interesting time. Now, the other part that I'm just kind of wondering, so your dad, did you reconcile with your dad after some of the challenges that you had, and he said, okay, I'm not going to talk to you any longer, or how did that go?
No, so like I said, it was a very, very powerful moment. My mum ended up speaking to him quite a bit, and by the time I got home, which was 6 months later, everything was kind of on the mend already.
Okay.
It had
Okay.
already kind of so I was still in the States for another 6 months.
Right.
And by the time I got home, it was not like nothing had happened,
Yeah.
but he saw the shift in my behavior. And so then, like, we've got a much better relationship now than we did have before. So
And
it
that's a
wasn't
good thing.
necessarily a bad thing, but he
Yeah.
was definitely disappointed, to say the least.
Yeah, no kidding. Eh? So then,
Yeah.
and then
And
from that point forward, you'd spent 15 years helping high performance break toxic patterns that taught
Mhm.
you things that you felt was not unique to you, but also to others. And you could help potentially others as you are doing and started doing. And then the other thing that I found interesting, I'm an author, so are you. So you wrote this book, The Trust Trap. I say, have you
yeah.
got it? Have you got it close by, so you can show us the
Yeah.
actual book?
So this one.
Yeah. So that's the one. That's the one that's show here. So tell us about the book.
So this is this is something that I wish I'd wrote years ago, but I never did. And uh, a year before I went to the States and got into that drama, I lost the vision in my left eye. I had three surgeries, and the
What
first surgery
happened?
failed.
What happened?
Second surgery worked. I was at a concert. I was walking from one stage to another, and the vision disappeared in my eye. My
Why?
retina detached. Just, just
Just
happened.
spontaneous?
Yep. Yeah.
Huh.
1 second I could see. The next second it was pitch black.
Wow.
Um, so I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was something to do with my contacts. So I took my contact lens out, and my vision was that bad at that stage that I thought, okay, yeah, whatever, something's going on. Went to the optometrist the following day, and they're like, "Oh, do you have any plans for the rest of the day?" I'm like, "Nope." Okay, and they booked me in to see a specialist straight away. I saw a specialist that afternoon. I was in surgery in 24 hours. Um, so yeah, the first surgery failed. The second surgery gave me back my vision, even better than what it was before.
Wow.
Like, it was amazing. And they put a stabilizing fluid in there, which is a silicon-based oil, and that silicon-based oil caused cataracts. And so they had to do a simple cataract operation. When they did the cataract operation, I lost my vision. Like, they took it away again. So I got it back for like 2 months, and then they did cataracts, and then it went away again. I've never got it back since.
Never got it back
So
after that?
no, I've been to Mexico and I've done stem cells and I've taken peptides and I've done exercises. I've done everything that is possible to do and thrown a lot of money at it. And it's just, yeah. Now you got to accept where you're at, right? Maybe in 10 years there'll be something cool that'll come out and I'll be able to test that. But at the moment, no, it's just not going to happen.
Now, I
And
have, uh, how did you call that again? I get needles in my eye. It's not uncommon for older people that,
mhm,
it becomes, how did you call that again now?
macular degeneration.
That's the one. Yeah, that's what I have in the one eye, in my right eye.
Yep.
So, and that happened about, I'm approaching November the 1st, I'll be 85. Probably it's been about 5, 6 years. And
Yep.
it kind of started spontaneously. And
Oh
then,
yeah.
but so now what I do is every 8 weeks, I get a needle in my eye. And that kind of, my vision is not 20/20, but it's okay.
Yep. Well, that's good. That's positive. It's
Yeah,
something they can do, right?
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but they say there is no cure for mine. With yours, there may be, right? Still, no.
Um. So right now, with the condition of my left eye, what the condition is and the way that it's shown, most optometrists and ophthalmologists are just like, yeah, like what you've got, you've got.
Yeah,
Unless they come up with a brand new procedure, like, don't worry about it.
yeah.
Which is why I went and experimented with a bunch of things.
Right.
There's a new type of stem cell that's come out that's not really a stem cell. It's called an NSC, which is a neural stem cell. And so they go after, they specifically target if you inject into your ocular cavity, they will typically go after the ganglion receptors and the axon receptors inside. I've spent a lot of time studying this, in case
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
were wondering
understand.
why.
Yeah,
And so they will
obviously.
specifically target, so like stem cells, standard stem cells just reduce inflammation. But these other ones that they're starting to bring out now, they specifically target the cells that are damaged in my eye.
Right.
But there's only a couple of clinics that do that in the world, and getting in there is a long and lengthy process. So I put it on the back burner for a while. But to answer your question with the Trump strap, which is why this came up, November last year, my vision in my right eye started going, and I was losing vision. And then in December, I can't see in this eye, and this eye was just with a focus.
Oof.
Everything, I had double vision. I couldn't see anything really. So, like this cup here, like I can see you quite well, like this, no
Right.
problem now.
Right.
Okay. But if I have to look at like some text on something on the screen, I need my glasses. It's actually better for me to have them off.
Right.
But this water bottle here, where it says one nutrition, I'd have to have it like this to be able to read it before.
Right.
That's where the vision got to.
Right.
And I spent a lot of money and a lot of time traveling around to ophthalmologists all throughout Thailand, and they've got very good ophthalmologists and very good facilities here. And no one could tell me what was going on. And so when I got to ophthalmologist number 6, it, he suggested that it's cataracts. I'm like, okay, no worries. Then I went to number 7, and he said it's cataracts. I went to number 8, cataracts. Okay, now we're getting 3 people that agree on the same thing. So I'm like, okay, that's a very simple operation. It's very
Yeah.
straightforward. It's also the operation that took the vision from my left eye.
Well, yeah.
So I was like, okay, this
Do I want to
it
do
was
this?
well, I didn't have a choice
Yeah.
because I couldn't see anyway.
Yeah.
So I either well, that's not necessarily true. I could see everything distorted, so I still had the
Right.
ability to perceive color.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it came to a question of okay, do because I couldn't drive anymore.
No.
I couldn't really cook food or cook dinner. I couldn't pick my kids up from school. So there was a lot of stuff to go on. Okay, I've got to make a choice. Do I have this surgery and risk going permanently black, or do I keep it as is and salvage like what I've got,
Right.
which is eventually going to go into something where I can't see anything because the lens is going to be completely covered and faked anyway.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really much of a choice, John.
Right.
Yeah, I had to have
Yeah.
it, and that was possibly one of the best things that has ever happened because it put me in a position where there might be a chance that I would never be able to coach again, not in the way that I usually coach.
Right.
Because if the surgery went wrong, then it's going to be quite challenging to get on Zoom calls and quite challenging. Like I coach by watching people's body language. I coach by
Sure.
seeing their reaction.
Sure.
that helps guide me where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So that means my coaching would lose its efficacy. I wouldn't get the same results. I'd have to learn a whole new way of coaching, which is possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's something I'd have to learn all over again.
Yeah. Avoid
So,
avoid if avoid it if you can. Obviously.
yeah, exactly. Right. But when you don't have a choice, like
No.
you got to do it.
Yeah.
So the trust trap was a way of putting, 15 years worth of work into a self-contained unit that, when put in someone's hand, would be able to change their life. And I had some people say, "Well, you could have done upsells, and you can." Do you not understand the concept of what was going on? There is no upsell because there was a very real chance that I wouldn't be in a position to upsell anything. And second to that, for me, a book's not a lead magnet. I don't buy a book so I can be sold something else. I buy a book because I want to learn about something and I want to solve a problem. So either it's a book about information that's going to teach me ideas, or in the case of a lot of self-help, it's a book that's going to teach me ideas and show me solutions along the way that can work. Like, okay, no worries. So that's what I did. I wrote the book. It's about patterns that I've observed for, well, every single person on the planet. There's not a single person on the planet that doesn't have this perceptual glitch. It's the way the brain has evolved over time, the cognitive biases that we have, and the way our neurons fire all trigger this same mechanism. Now, for some people, it's not really that much of an issue. And for others, it's a huge issue because of how they trust and the way they show up. But everyone has this perceptual glitch, and everyone thinks that trust is this virtue and it's this fairy tale idea that's sold by Disney that you have a trustworthy person. And I make the argument that there's no such thing as a trustworthy person. It doesn't mean that everyone's evil and they're out to screw you over and they're trying to get you. It's not that at all. But it does mean that when you look at the world through the lens that I offer, it gives you a sense of personal power that just is unparalleled because you take full ownership and responsibility for the outcome of your life. And I think that that radical kind of responsibility is one of the most powerful things that anyone can have.
I agree.
Well, you're a living testament to it, my friend. From your childhood, growing up in Nazi Germany, I've listened to podcasts that you've done, buddy.
Yeah.
You, sir, are like right at the top of the list of people that take radical responsibility. And that's obvious with the way that you built your businesses, with the way that you're raising your family, with the way that you show on the podcast, everything you do. Like you literally, like, you typify exactly what I'm talking about.
I appreciate it a lot, Clay, especially coming from you, because this is your business in terms of making observations of people and evaluating them as to who they are. So I'm still wondering what happened to your right eye. Did you get the fix on? Yeah. And now I had that
That's why
done.
we're having.
I had that done on both my eyes. And for the people that are
Yep.
watching us, it is an amazing operation actually, because it only takes 10 minutes or so for each eye. And the funny thing that
Yep.
it was, I just have to tell you this, that I got it done on mine after I had the diagnosis here for the needles. But he said, we'll do that as well, that procedure. So the fellow that did it here in Prince George was very, very highly capable. And as he was standing there in the operating room, and all kinds of nurses around him, and then one of the nurses said to me, "It's kind of interesting, Doctor So and So knows about you because his dad works for you in one of your lumber mills." I said, "Whoa." Yes, he said, "You better be nice because he's standing over you with a knife." I said, "Okay, I'll be nice." But the point that I was going to make is that I was amazed how quickly, how well it is done, because as if anybody understands, and I do, how precious eyesight is, and how careful we have to be about treating it well, and and having been there partially when I was affected by my right eye, and it became fake, and it was difficult to see. So immensely precious.
It definitely adds a layer of depth to things that I can't say most people take for granted, because that's a really bold assumption to say that they take for granted. But I would say that most people don't necessarily have the same level of appreciation. It'd be like most people don't have the same level of appreciation for food that a kid in Africa would have,
Yeah,
right? It's just because you haven't had the experience. It doesn't mean you're not grateful for it. It's just
exactly.
there's just different levels.
Yeah. Now, the other interesting part is that about your book is that,
Hmm.
and I started writing books about 6, 7 years ago, and writing books is not easy. And so the first book that I wrote is that people said to me, "Hey, John, you should write a book. Yeah, it's such an interesting life," and blah blah blah. And for about 20 years, I would start, stop, and then I knew if I didn't do it in my mid 70s, that would never happen. So I
Hmm.
wrote this book here, Against All Odds. And it's not about hurrah, hurrah, how successful John is, but more about all the challenges along the way, falling down, dusting off, staying the course, never give up. And that's what it became. And so, and then I like it. Then writing became part of my life in a way. And I wrote then a number of other books as well.
The writing is, I think, it's a really good form of expression. I had always kind of wanted to write a book, but I never really thought that I was the kind of person that could write a book, right? And I never really thought it's the same as coaching. I got on podcasts for coaching. I had a very successful business. I was doing seven figures. I didn't have a wife or kids at the time. And making seven figures when you're a single guy is a lot of money, way more money than you need. So I didn't have these huge ambitions to go, oh, you know what? Let me scale to 100 million, see what I can do. I'll become the next. No, I was not interested. What that left me with was like, I don't really have anything to offer that hasn't been said. When there was a very real chance that in 25 days after the appointment was booked, that I'm going to go blind, for 2 days, I sat there thinking, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I thought maybe I'll do a video course. I'm like, no, because then I've got to pay someone else to do all the editing, production of the videos, and then that's going to take time. So no, I don't do that. So maybe I'll do an online course. I'm like, no, because then I've got to do all this hosting, and then so no. So it became clear. It kind of like, I'm not saying I'm like Jeff Bezos, right? But when he started Amazon, he's like, what's the thing that you can sell that's not going to take up any time, not going to, that's going to last? Like you can leave it on the website for years, and books. And so it became obvious, like the only option then was to write and build a book. And the clarity that the lack of time that I had to do it in a way that is in my voice, that I've written, that is about my life, it's about all of the challenges, which I do talk about a lot of the challenges, and it's I can't even say they're challenges, John. Like, it's such a simple life. It's just my brain was such a victim about this whole thing. So I didn't really have that many challenges. I mean, the biggest challenges I had were mental challenges, and the mental challenges that I've had have mostly been overcoming stuff to do with, okay, how do I manage to continue working offshore while cheating on medical tests and pretending that I can read with my left eye so I don't get canceled out because I really enjoy this job? Or how do I manage to do this? And so I've had to figure out things like that, but they're not really big challenges. But the beauty of being heavily into personal development is coaching and going and spending over $500,000 on training myself and getting better and studying from people and getting one-to-one mentorship from people and doing all this meant that I had such an amazing access and amazing base to write from, because I knew of all these amazing titans in the industry that had done the research, that had proved the patterns I was observing were correct. And that level of focus and clarity just became this pinpoint where it was just sit down and write. So for 3 weeks, my face was maybe 4 inches away from the screen. I was lying down on my couch with my laptop and I was just typing with my face this far from the screen, the text at 200% on a Google Doc so I could read what I'm typing as I'm going through it, and just racing through it. And I finished everything, and I realized that because I didn't read what I wrote, I'd actually looped over some things, and I kind of looped a fair few things. And I write very much in a similar manner to the way I talk, which is just straight to the point. Because I find, like, why beat around the bush? You're just wasting time, and you're not appreciating the time that someone has given to you if you need to really talk in riddles all the time. And so I tend not to talk in too many riddles. But it was
For
all about. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, just to comment on the way you write is that I do the same. I'm a storyteller. That's who I am, and that's how I
Mhm.
write my books as well. You know.
But it just became obvious, right? Like I could write all these processes about the neuroscience that shows you how the emotions fire and how your neurons fire and the psychological principles that prove that memory is an active synthetic process. But no one really cares about memory being an active synthetic process. They care about what it means for themselves. They care about how do I interpret this? And so giving real life examples from my life, one shows that I am a human being. Two, it shows that, hey, I do make mistakes, and these things that I thought were big deals at the time that the world was attacking me, you might relate to in something that is not trivial, which was significant. And you can also see that it is equally applicable to something that is trivial, that isn't like life ending, but at that time you think, oh, like the world's against me. So there was a saying, I engaged with a book writing coach 3 or 4 years ago now, because I have a system that I used to teach with productivity and getting into the zone. I used to work with a lot of athletes about how to sharpen your brain, sharpen your skill set, and like really accelerate your learning period. So cutting down your learning time. And I thought, you know what, this is the book. That's the book I want to write. And I got 6 months into it. I'm like, I'm just not enjoying this process. And I was going back and forth with my book coach because he was like, oh, you need to change this. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like me now. Like, no. Mm-mm. And I ended up dropping about 25 grand into this book coach. And I ended up with a 6 chapter book. Well, it was half written. And I was like, yep, no, not going to take this. And so
No.
I just left it. But then when it came to this, my coach had said to me back then, and this was the thing that kind of stuck with me. He's like, if you could only write one book, what would be the book that you'd write? Well, The Trust Trap is it. Because as I saw it, it was probably going to be the only thing that I could write. Because if the surgery went south, I wasn't going to have an opportunity to really type another book. So that was it. So it was to me like, what is the most useful thing, an idea that I could present to people that could help them? And how could I give that to them in something that's extremely easy to read, but also entertaining? Because if people aren't entertained, they're not going to keep reading. If it's a hard
No.
slog, like there are some books that I will continue reading and persevering through because they're so dense. Because I'm like, there's going to be so much value in here. At the same time, it's a struggle and it takes me a long time to read the book.
Right.
And then there are books that are entertaining, that are easy to read, that I also get value from, that I don't have to push. I'm like, that's what I need to create.
So if we look at this book here, Clay,
Hmm.
and I look at the title because I go through all of this as you did, I have to
Hmm.
know what will my book look like, what colors should it have, How should the cover
Hmm.
be? Should there be pictures in it? What will be the font sizes? All of those questions are part of writing a book. So, and the in your case, the title is interesting, the trust trap, but in the frame of mind that you had at the time that you were writing this book,
Hmm.
if things were not going well with your right eye, then
Hmm.
you'd be blind.
Yeah.
And it would change everything in your life. Although you already reconciled that if that happens, I will not give up, I will find another way and all the other things. But to do it from that perspective makes this book unique. And then the trust trap, what did it mean to you when you chose that title?
So I had a list of 13 titles and subtitles that I was going through, and I asked a lot of my clients which one they preferred, uh, and we were going back and forth. But there was a lot of people that said that this resonated with them because they've been burned in the past. And I asked people, because I had people, as I was writing, I had people reading the chapters as I was writing them out, just to see what their reaction were, if they enjoyed the book. Because what's the point in writing the book if no one's going to enjoy it as they're reading it? So I thought I may as well get feedback while I'm writing it. So it was a very it was a very tight deadline for them, because usually with pre-readers, so I'm told, you give them a lot of time, like as you're working through. These guys didn't have that. They literally had a day to read a chapter and then get it back, kind of thing, and then we're moving on, moving on, moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we went through this process, and then at the end of let's say they got through about 7 or 8 chapters, I said, okay, these are the titles that I'm looking at using. And there was an overwhelming response like, this one seems like it fits what you're doing with the book the most. So it was from feedback from other people, because I had a completely different title in mind. Please don't ask me what it was, because I don't remember. But I liked the other one so much more. I was like, this is definitely where we're going to go. Yeah, I'm going to use this. But I'm not the one buying the book, so my opinion doesn't really matter at that stage, right? So when I've got 22 people going through and reading the book, it's a much bigger sample size than one. And when 14 or 15 of those people, which is over half, turn around and say, this is the title, I'm like, okay, that's the main narrative. And more importantly, the people that said that read through the book faster and sent me way more information on the feedback on how it's. I'm like, okay, it's appealing to people that are really getting information and value from the book. That's where we need to go.
Interesting. So and then so when did you finish it? How long ago was it?
So it got published on the 23rd of March. I finished writing the book on the 21st of March.
This year?
Yeah,
Oh my God. So and is it available on Amazon or any of the
yeah,
where,
yeah. So I put it onto Amazon because it was just the simplest and easy thing. So what do you call it? Amazon Kindle Direct. So it's on Amazon Kindle and Amazon Paperback.
right.
And because I've got it on this Kindle thing, it's the only place it can be as an ebook is on Amazon. And I've never even gone and thought to approach anyone else to try and get it published anywhere else, because Amazon just does print on demand. So I'll just leave it there for now.
Yeah, and I agree with that, you know. So, and then, so just want to come to the coaching again. You know, you said that behavioral coach, what is behavioral coach? And what do you coach? And how do you
So
how do you contact your clients?
how do I contact my clients?
Yes, is it virtual or is it in in
So it
person?
depends.
Yeah.
So there's a few ways that I go about it. Uh, Behavioral coaching is behavioral modification.
Right.
And we use a lot of neuroscience, a lot of psychology. I use a lot of hypnosis for a lot of things. But there's a lot of subtle things that happen too on the other side that allow people to identify behaviors that are not really producing the results that they want. We intervene, interrupt the pattern, interrupt what's going on neurologically and psychologically, and start to deviate and de escalate behaviors that are causing problems, and then transfer, for lack of a better word, the energy of that. And I'm not talking in like a woo woo sense, I literally mean transferring the flow of electricity. So different neurons fire, different synapses fire, so that energy shifts and then starts to go towards the behaviors that are desirable. And yeah, I work remotely with the majority of my clients. The majority of my clients are actually in North America, in Canada and the US,
Right.
and have been for the majority of the time. When I first started, I used to work at retreats here in Phuket. So we've got a lot of world class retreats here where people fly from all over the world. And I used to speak weekly at retreats. So I'd speak at 5 different retreats every single week. And there'd be sometimes there'd be like 3 people there. A lot of the times there'd be 25, 26, 27. And then sometimes we'd have like 50, 60 people. So every Monday, Tuesday, there was 2 talks. Wednesday, there was nothing. Thursday, there were 2 talks. So 5 times a week, I was in front of anywhere from about 20 people to 200 people every single week. And I was
Wow.
just giving talks about certain things. And it was great because it gave me an amazing springboard for testing what works with people, what's resonating with people, what is actually getting them results. So I'd give the talk. I'd then go take them through processes that I developed. So I had guinea pigs, and I had a huge flow of guinea pigs coming in to test like my ideas and my processes and my patterns. The issue was it didn't do so well for me financially in order to support myself because of the way I approach. So I'm quite direct, I'm quite forward. And the marketing of a lot of those retreats was very relaxed and calm and everything's safe. I'm like, but it's not. It's not the world we live in. The world we live in is coming for you, and you need to defend. You need to maneuver. You need to, take it on.
Exactly.
And so there was a mismatch with my tone and the tone of the guests that were arriving,
Yeah.
and that then led me to one of your fellow countrymen, a good buddy of mine, Thomas Engberts. Uh, he was very much into online marketing. He's a physiotherapist, and he said, "Look, man, you're extremely good at what you do, and you need to go online because you're not going to find your clients here in Phuket to get online." I'm like, "I don't know the first thing about it." He goes, "For starters, you're charging $25 an hour to work with people because there's no way. Who charges $25 an hour as a coach?" I'm like, "I do." He's like, "No, no, like, were you insane?" So he took me to this marketing event, which I'd never been to any marketing events before. And they started the event, like, "Okay, what do you do? How much you charge?" And I told people what I charge. Like, "Are you insane? Like, how do you even live?" I'm like, "I'm usually working with 40 or 50 clients a week." They're like, 40 or 50 clients a week? I'm like, yeah. That gave me an extreme edge because I was getting so many repetitions in so quickly that it allowed me to test so many things of what was working, what wasn't working, and got so many people through the doors. It actually ended up being a very good foundation for everything. When I said I charge $400 to quit smoking, results guaranteed or your money back, people were like, "There's no way. That should be at least $1,000. That should be this." So then I got this into this world where you should charge $1 million for a session kind of thing, which the online marketers love to do. But what it did give me was perspective, and that perspective is that okay, there are people, entrepreneurs, who really value having their mind in the right place and really value having someone in the corner that they can call and they can chat to and they can have this conversation with about like snapping them out of things and course correcting in the moment. And that's where it's like, okay, so that's where the value is. The value is not necessarily in the change itself. The value for a lot of my clients was being able to stay in contact with me and being able to message me saying, "Hey, I've got this thing going on. What do I do?" And then me getting on a 5 minute voice note saying, "Do this, 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 this." They're now back on track. They haven't lost 2 days spinning. Now their company's still making money and they're moving forward. So it became the driver for understanding that, yeah, okay, the value is in the sessions and helping people, but it's also about the speed and the efficiency about keeping people on track.
Now, the other thing that is an observation on my part is that you're also a very good communicator. Have you always been like that, or because
John, John, don't be silly. Come on. I just told you I was a victim for like the first 26 years of my life, man.
yeah,
What victim is good at communicating? Oh, the world hates me. Oh, no one likes me.
yeah,
No, I was definitely not a good communicator at all. I was horrible. Horrible. I was one of the worst because everyone was against me. Well, actually, let me let me just pause for a second. Maybe I was an okay communicator, but my mindset was so messed up that I thought the world was against me, that people weren't living up to their deal of the bargain. But honestly, no, I don't feel I was a very good communicator. I definitely think that it's improved over time. Living in Phuket has done a world of good for me because your native tongue is not English. Yet the Dutch are amazing linguists, just as a general rule. Usually they speak 17 languages. It's ridiculous, right? But you also grow up, because it's not your native tongue. You grow up with a healthy respect that not everyone speaks English. So you don't necessarily, I mean, you assume in Canada on the West Coast that everyone speaks English, right? Maybe not in Quebec, but
no,
on the West Coast, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. And so there's this understanding that you have, where even though my parents are South African and there's Afrikaans and there's Zulu and there's Xhosa and there's English, got all the languages.
yeah,
So not everyone speaks English. But in Australia, pretty much everyone speaks English.
yes,
And so when I'm talking at a million miles an hour, I expect everyone to understand me because it's so simple. So you can understand the concepts because I know you speak it. No. Coming to Phuket, I had clients that were from Romania. I had clients that were from Germany. I had clients that were from Switzerland. And they spoke very good English, but English is not their first language.
yeah,
And so, g'day, mate. How's it going? You having all right? You having a good day? Yeah, nice one, mate. Speaking like that is not conducive to being able to communicate in a way that people understand. And being exposed to that forced me to change the way that I speak. Because if I want to help people, they need to understand what I'm saying. It's
exactly,
a crazy thing, right?
exactly.
So yeah, it was forced. There was a lot of things that forced changes, that forced shifts, that had I not moved abroad, had I not had a Brazilian wife, had I not then had a French girlfriend, now a Russian wife, it's a lot of changes that have happened. And all three of my partners all speak fantastic English. At the same time, it's still not their first language.
Yeah,
And you have to respect that. You have to respect the fact that it's not their first language and that they're doing something that a lot of people from the English speaking world just take for granted.
yeah. So the coming back to Dutch, so it's amazing in Holland. I was not a success story academically. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times. But normally, what happens in Holland is that starting at grade 8, you have to learn to speak obviously Dutch, but then German, French, and English is that's what are the languages you speak, and then whatever else you pick up along the way, Spanish maybe, maybe even Italian. And but in my case, I grew up in northeastern Holland, and it's
Hmm.
a province Groningen, about 10-15 minutes from the border with Germany, and we speak dialect. And so
Right.
love speaking dialect, and most of the people don't understand me in Holland unless I speak High Dutch. So by the time I was 17, 18, got into the Dutch Air Force, I had to speak High Dutch. So I had to
Right.
acquire that language. And when I was
Hmm.
24, my dream was always to go to Canada. I left for Canada. I had to learn to speak English, and so you know the but you know it wasn't an experience, but you know to and then to become a presenter and be actively involved in particularly podcasting and those kind of things. And I do a lot
Sure.
of presenting to it took me time to build confidence.
So that's an interesting point because a lot of people talk about confidence as this thing, like you're a natural born leader, or it's this something you have it or you don't. And I think you just nailed something out of the park, which is something that I really, really harp on and I'm very passionate about. And confidence is a sham. And what you just said kind of proves my theory because you had something way more important than confidence. You had commitment.
Right.
And the commitment was, I'm doing this thing. So no matter what, it doesn't matter whether I suck, it doesn't matter whether this happens, I'm just going to keep going.
Correct.
And a lot of people have sold this myth that confidence is going to solve your problems. And confidence, if you're confident this will happen, if you're confident, go away.
No.
I can tell you, I was not confident that I was going to be able to write the book in 21 days and publish it, but I was committed.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I'd never written a book, so I wasn't even confident that it was going to be good, but I was committed.
Yeah.
Every single time, and I challenge anyone that's listening to this, if you look at back at every time where you really got what you wanted as an outcome, you might not have been confident, but you were absolutely 100% committed
Right.
without any doubt.
And I feel about that, Clay, is that uh, April is important to me because that's when I was in Northern Holland and we were liberated from the German army, April the 12th, 1945, by the Canadian Army. It made such an
Yep.
impression on me that I knew from that point forward, when I grew up, I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada. Now, the other part about it is that academically I was not a success story, but I
Hmm.
knew that I was just as smart as the others. Not smarter then, but just as smart as the other. But I had
Yep.
to prove that to me. And so then I decided to go to Canada. I wanted to start with nothing. When I arrived here, I had a suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I arrived in Vancouver. I went to the immigration department there. The other dream that I had is to build a lumber mill. And so
Hmm.
they said, go to Prince George. That's where all the timber is. And so I went to Prince George, came off the bus here 60 years ago. I can still see where the Greyhound station is. Came off the bus. I had my suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I counted my money at least 3 times. I had $25.47. But what I had lots of attitude, I've always been positive. And then the
Hmm.
second one is that I avoid negative. The second one is I have a passion. Whatever I do, I give it 125%. And then the other one is work ethic. I work harder than anybody, and I still do that today, even at 85. And as I said earlier, I wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I always make my bed, and I'm always think I'm late, and I'm always in a hurry. And I still do that today, and even at 85. But staying the course and not giving up and having that we live in the land of opportunity in North America, and
Oh, yeah.
so and there is lots of opportunity. But to me, what is most important in my life is I too many people say I can't, and I say
Right.
yes, you can, no matter
So
what.
I agree with you. And at the same time, I don't. So I believe that everyone has the potential to absolutely do whatever it is they choose to do. But as long as they tell themselves that they can't, they're right. They won't
No,
because they'll find all the ways to make sure they can't do it. So,
exactly.
yes, I agree with you. Everyone can do it. And also, those ones that tell themselves they can't, they won't do it. So they
Yes.
can't.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I was saying with regards to commitment, John.
Yes.
You, my friend, are the epitome of commitment. You'll just find a way.
Yes.
If you want to do something, you'll figure it out. And
Yes.
that to me, that's the underpinning of your entire story. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Okay, yep, I might not have this. I'll figure out a way to do it. Which to me is just commitment. It's
E-
just what it is. It's in its
even at
purest
80,
sense.
even at 85.
Dude, you're showing up on a podcast. Most people will be kicking back in Hawaii or in Cancun, and you're still helping people and you're still pushing things forward. Commitment, like right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it just oozes out of everything you do.
Clay, this hour went by too quickly. We must do this again because we got so many other things to discuss. I want you to show your book once more
Sure,
to our guests looking at us from around the world. And it is an amazing book. And I'm going to get a copy of it. It is also, did you do the audio on it as well?
I have not yet. It's been such a mad rush
Yeah, yeah,
because
no,
there
I
was
understand.
no launch party, right? There was no hype around it. So once I wrote the book and then my vision came good, I'm like, oh, I want this thing to help people. Now I need to get it people awareness, right? I need to tell people, hey, there's this
Yeah.
book here. It might help you. So there's a whole process going around that now. I've been setting it up and I didn't really understand the mechanisms of an audiobook. So I've been looking into that. Okay, what do I include? What do I not include? How do I do this? There's links and QR codes in the book. So how do I navigate around that? Do I just say what I'm so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm figuring out. There will definitely be an audiobook. And after the show, I will get your address and I'll mail you one so you don't need to buy one. Don't worry about it.
I love that, Clay. And then the other part is that how can people find you and contact you?
So you can email me at go@claymoffat.com or I'm active on Twitter, what I call X now. Sorry. I created an account like 2 weeks ago after like everything started working. And that's at Moffat Clay. And I'm on there every single day. If you want to get in touch with me, they're the two best ways. Or go to trusttrapbook.com.
And again, the Touch Trap book for all those people watching is available on all the major booksellers and in particular on
Just
Amazon.
Amazon.
Just
Just
Amazon
Amazon.
for
That's
now, but the other
yeah.
books, the audio will come out in due course as well. And for all the people watching us on podcasting, if you like what we are doing, both Clay and myself, subscribe to us, share it with others, and and comment on it. And this podcast, Clay, will be available tomorrow, probably tomorrow morning somewhere around that time. Your time, you now at 6 o'clock in the morning, so it'll be available to you in Australia probably in the early afternoon or so.
Okay, perfect.
Clay, it was a privilege. We have to stay in touch. I'll make sure that Scott got all your contact points. And again, it was a privilege. And I loved our podcast. Let's make sure we stay in touch.
Thanks very much for hosting me. It was an enjoyable time.
Thanks, Clay. Take care. Bye bye.